appreciate him as he comes on stage. Thank you.
The Deputy Vice Chancellor, our distinguished researchers, presenters, exhibitors, innovators, distinguished scholars, members of university community. Good morning. Good morning. How do you do? How do you do? Good. Yeah, I learned that is always an interesting greeting. And sometimes when you answer it, it looks like a question, not an answer. And how do you do? How do you do? It's correct. And maybe in life, not everything have to sound correct for it to be correct. I'd like to welcome all of you to today's session. And today is day 3 of the conference. So it is the climax of what we have been doing here for the last 3 days. Some of you have been here from day 1, then day 2, then day 3. Some of you, this is your second day. And for some of you, this is your first day to be here. Whatever the situation, I'd like to extend a very hearty welcome to each and every one of you and to say that we are so glad that you came. This being the climax, we are looking forward to close with a bang. And this is a day where you walk away with ideas. This is the day you walk away with contacts. This is a day that you walk away with resolutions deriving from this 8th Research and Innovation Week. We've had vibrant sessions, and I know many of you who've been here will agree that the last 2 days have been nothing but extremely exciting. We've had opportunities to interact with intellectuals. We've had opportunities to interact with people who have challenged us, people who have come up with innovations and are doing big things out there, and we are really very inspired. So for today, we have this exciting day where, again, we carry on discussing topics along the theme of our research week. In the last 2 days, and in particular yesterday, we had vibrant discussions, and those of you who are present, you saw. First, we had a session on a very critical topic, and that is strengthening collaboration between industry and academia for the sake of startup growth and technology commercialization. Because from there we learned that it is important to move from just ideas to be able to commercialize, and hopefully inventors and innovators derive benefit from their work. And from the discussions there, we saw that there is need for greater collaboration between industry and academia. Academia, of course, is us who are in the university, who are engaged in teaching and research. And then there is industry, the people who are engaged in work and implementing some of the ideas that arise. And one of the key things, if you recall, was that it is important for universities to have technology transfer offices to be able to facilitate innovators to commercialize their ideas, incubate them, and derive benefit from it. The big question there was, so who goes to who? Is it industry to go to academia, or is it academia to go to industry? And that was a critical question, and it remains critical. The conclusion, of course, was we cannot have fixed positions. It is for both parties to go to each other, because that is the essence of partnership. There are certain instances when industry will go to academia, and there are those instances where academia will go to industry, because partnership requires people reaching out to each other rather than waiting for who will blink first. We had also very attractive offers made by different players in industry to us as academia. And I want to hope that as many of us as possible will take advantage of those offers, reach out to the contacts, and see how you can move your ideas to the next level. Then we had another session that was equally productive, and that was a session of transforming health outcomes through collaborative science and innovation ecosystems. And those of you who were present can bear witness with me that this was really, really very deep and intellectually engaging. Health sciences and how in that field, collaborations and working together and applying technology bears the highest potential in terms of improving health outcomes for the benefit of people. And the session left us baying for more, and this is one of those things that I thought to myself, we perhaps need to give more and more time in the future, because it came across as a very rich area of research and collaboration, and a very fertile area for this collaboration between industry and academia. Then finally, we had breakout sessions. I saw a number of you in different rooms. Again, the sessions there were quite engaging different topics ranging from entrepreneurship, startups, commercialization, health sciences, social sciences, life sciences, youth innovation, and talent development. In other words, there was room for everybody in our breakout sessions yesterday. We also had opportunities to network and get to engage with each other closely, and I hope you had an opportunity to do that at a personal level. So today, we are again poised to receive more, and we have a panel that is thoroughly prepared for us, and later on in the day, of course, we will have more and more activities from breakout sessions and much more. And so to take us through this panel, I would like to introduce the chair of the session, who will then take over from there and guide us as far as the panelists are concerned. So the chair of this session is Dr. Wycliffe Anyango. And Dr. Wycliffe Anyango is a distinguished scholar and researcher here at Zetech University. He is a head of department in the School of Business and Economics, and also doubles up as a coordinator of postgraduate programs at Zetech University. So if you're there and you're looking to advance your studies, earn a master's, a PhD, advance your studies, this is a man to speak to. So ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Wycliffe Anyango.
Good morning. Good morning. The audience sound very dull and sad this morning. So we need to light up the room because the nature law always is that whatever you give to nature, it will give back to you. So when we start the day in a bright and a happy manner, it means our day is going to be bright and happy. So good morning. So allow me to appreciate the Dean Law School, Dr. Kibet, with 5 factorial appreciation for the good opener in the morning. Can you prepare your hands? Prepare your hands. 1, 2, 3, go. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Dr. Ari, for the very touching remarks to open our session for today. So I am going to be the chair of this session. My name is Dr. Wycliffe Anyango from the university, that is Zetech. So this morning, we want to appreciate our thematic area, that is students, youth innovation, and talent development. That simply means that this session is going to focus more on empowering our students. And maybe just to start this off, there were 3 CEOs who were seated in a joint sometime last month. All these CEOs were coming from a brewery company, and it was time for them to order drinks. So CEO from company A ordered a product from their company, and CEO from company B also ordered a product from their company. Definitely all these products were alcoholic. So the CEO from the third company, that is CEO X, ordered a soft drink, to be specific, Coca-Cola. So the other 2 CEOs were worried. Why are we taking alcohol and the other CEO is taking a soft drink? And then the other CEO told them that you people are taking alcohol. For once, I have to be different. Why I'm saying this is when we were catching up with Dr. Kibet in the morning, he was telling me that he trusts that whatever I'm going to say when I stand here is good and original. Are we together? Is good, and deep in my heart, I knew that the original he's referring to is not very good. And the good part that he's referring to is not very original. So trust that the day is going to be excellent because you are in the hands of Zetech University. Members, are we together? Are you happy to be here? You look smiling bright. Am I looking good from down there? I look good? Or should I step aside? You see me? Thank you, team. So this morning, allow me to welcome to the stage my able moderator. That is going to be Madam Wahome Wangeshi from Ansa Village. Madam Wangeshi, welcome to the stage. And as my moderator comes up, clap until your turn for clapping shall arrive. There's a small room down there where our youth are being trained. And when they clap, they more or less shut down that first floor. So they need to hear that we are here. Are we together, team? We are together? Support me in this. Madam Wangeshi, if you are in, karibu sana. Seems that she's running late, but we will be joined by Madam Wangeshi. Away from that, I'm going to now invite the panel to come forth to the stage, and I will start with one of my mentors, a very senior member of faculty in this university. Somebody is turning lives through knowledge. This is the Dean School of Education, Arts and Social Sciences, Professor Owen Gumi, who is a renowned scholar, a renowned researcher, is the head of School of Education, who has been making these youths turn into successful and achievers in form of teachers who are now making difference in our high schools and the junior secondary schools. Professor is also a psychologist who has been also mentoring other psychologists, and so far is one of the best psychologists that we can now refer to you as a product of Zetech University. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Professor Owen Ngumi to the stage. Karibu sana, Professor. Second to that, I would want to welcome Mr. Kelvin Gitau from TME Education. Mr. Gitau, if you are here, we will be catching up with them once they arrive, then join us. Away from that, also, I want to welcome Carson Anekea from Unda Youth Network. If you are here, Anekea, you are most welcome. This is one of the best made youths who is now changing lives of the youth by empowering them and mentoring them to now understand the potential and the impacts that youth themselves can create in changing the education world to make youth believe in what they are capable of in terms of changing education and entrepreneurship itself. Karibu sana, Mr. Carson. Then allow me to welcome the face of the Zetech University student body, Mr. Mike Simiu, who is the ZUSA chairperson and the representative of the Zetech student fraternity. I believe this is your president and should be appreciated more. Students, is that the appreciation you give to your president? Thank you very much. And now, team, I want to welcome our keynote speaker, who is going to present us a very empowering speech for this particular moment before we get to our session of discussion. Mr. Enos Weswa from UK Tech Hub to join us. Okay, running late, so we will also be welcoming them at the right opportunity that will present itself in our discussion. So, Madam Wangeshi is here. So, finally, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Please appreciate Madam Wangeshi with some hearty claps. And then, at this particular point, I think I was really playing with my life. Already I saw that I was in danger. One of my colleagues who should have been part of this panel has been warning me that whenever I step down from this pulpit, already I was going to face danger. At this point, allow me to invite the head of research and innovation, Mount Kenya University, who has been a profound partner in supporting and working with Zetech University all through, and I think in his hands, we are doing well. Dr. Yatich, kindly join us to the stage. Please welcome him with hearty claps. Dr. Yatich is a renowned scholar, is a researcher, now acting as the head of research and innovation at Mount Kenya University. And through that, the partnership that we have with our partners in the education fraternity is actually paying off, and the future is really bright. At this point, members, I want to hand over the program to my able moderator, Madam Wangeshi Wahome. And before I go down, please clap for me because I think I did well. Thank you very much. Karibu sana Wangeshi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Good morning, everyone. Let me start by observing the protocol. I can see we have our able leaders, our DVCs, our deans, and most importantly, we have you all, the entrepreneurs and students in this place, as well as our partners. My name is Wangeshi Wahome. I will play two roles here. Our keynote speaker for today, Mr. Enos Weswa, is currently not around. We jointly run a program called Startup School Kenya, which is part of a program under the Kenya National Innovation Agency called the NIL program, which I know that Zetech University is part of NIL. And we've been taking a couple of entrepreneurs to UK. So hopefully, part of the discussions that we're having, we're also able to see, can we be able to get some of the students coming here? So he represents the UK Kenya Tech Hub as a country director. And just to give a bit of a synopsis before I even get into this, today's session really, we're looking at what the academic ecosystem can do with the world of entrepreneurship. And I must mention that we've been running for the last 2 years a program called Startup School Kenya. And what Startup School Kenya has been doing is running innovation challenges across universities. So far, we've done 10 innovation challenges in 10 different universities. I know Zetech is coming around the corner. Your able lead, Mrs. Esther, has really been pushing for this. So I know for sure we'll be doing it. But I just wanted to mention something very unique about it, is we find ourselves, especially within university setup, in a very unique position where certain universities highly specialize on certain areas. For instance, last year I was part of the Research and Innovation Week, was it the 7th edition? And I realized something unique, Dr. that your university is very good on green tech, the green climate environment. And it's been one of those things where we've been thinking, if we were to come and see what can we run as an innovation challenge with the Zetech University around the green space, the green tech space, what solutions can we build? And so the goal is, of course, beyond this, is we'll be coming back with the UK Kenya Tech Hub team, as well as the Startup School team and the Kenya team, to be able to sit down and see, can we run a proper innovation challenge with Zetech University around a cluster that is one of the most important things, because we're talking about climate change, and there's no better place than a university that has embraced that already. So, as I mentioned, I'm not going to mention anything that Enos that was going to do, because I'm not sitting here for him. However, I'll be taking you through the next panel session. And I'm delighted because it's the very first panel of the day. It's youth that day. I know you've been going through quite a lot of activities. So before I get into that, I run an organization. I need to introduce myself properly. I wear 3 hats. I run an organization called Answer Village. It's one of those on the logo there. Answer Village is a startup ecosystem enabler that we really heavily specialize on supporting early stage startups, especially student-led ventures. The second arm that I wear for purposes of this is I sit at the board of ASEC, championing policy. And why do I do that? Because I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and law and policy and tech are my cup of tea every day in terms of what I can be able to do. And the third hat that I wear, which is quite important, is that I'm a farmer. Very passionate about farming. I don't know how many of you have gotten your hands dirty this year, quite actually dirty. But yes, I do farm. I enjoy going back and seeing what you can do. And I always encourage young people, go back and do something, even if it's a kitchen garden. You'll be able to see how amazing the soil is, especially when it feeds us. Now, the objective of today's discussion, I wanted now to bring it close to home, is because of my work is I'm very passionate about supporting youth skills, youth entrepreneurship, and which is why I'm very passionate to be dealing with this. We'll be discussing a few things. One of the things that we want to do is want to explore emerging opportunities for youth, especially within the innovation and the entrepreneurship space. The second thing we want to look at is what does the future skills look like, especially in the world where the workforce is changing with AI and so on and so forth. The third thing is our institutions prepared for the future students leaving our universities to join the workforce, either as employees or as employers. Then we also want to highlight successful youth innovations that have happened, and we want to see, is there some collaboration that can exist between academia and the industry, which is one of the most key things. And joining us are the panelists that have been introduced. We have Dr. Henry Zetech from Mount Kenya University. We have Kevin Gitao from TME. We have Professor Owen Ngumi, who's the Dean, School of Education. I don't know whether that's the Dean is here. Thank you very much. We have a student representative, from ZUSA. I'm very keen to see the voice of students in this. And then we have Carson Anekai from UNDA Youth Network and Zetech alumni. Right. And I want to make sure that in the same manner that I've done a small justice to my introduction, I'd like our able panelists to also do a bit of an intro. So I'll start with my far left, our able Dean. If you could allow, quickly introduce yourself, Prof. Tell us something about yourself, but add something fun that we don't know, that especially your students don't know. So I think this one, I'm going to give your students some bullet.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Professor Owen Ngumi. I am a professor of psychology, and I have been teaching in the university for the last 22 years or so. I enjoy being in class more than being anywhere else, but life has made me to be sometimes out of class. Now, what can I say that is fun? Fun is very hard to create when you are told to create now. It should come spontaneously, isn't it? Yes. So what you don't know about me is that I'm shy.
I don't know whether you agree with that. Is your dean shy? Is your dean shy? Some agree, some don't. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Next.
Greetings once again. Good morning. I'm Carson Anekai, an alumni of Zetech University. I graduated last year, November 2025. I pursued a Bachelor of Science in Media and Digital Communication. And currently, I'm a health journalist. I'm also a mental health advocate. And I work with UNDA Youth Network, which is a global youth-led organization that advances mental health prevention. Most of the organizations that we've seen currently in Kenya, most of them in the mental health space are reactive rather than proactive. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to bring a new way in which the preventive aspect of mental health is being introduced. And in that particular organization, my role is the project coordinator. And your second question, something people don't know about me. This is my second panel presentation. I'm never used to such spaces, but whenever called upon, I can't disagree or maybe refuse to show up. And I know this is going to be wonderful. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carson. And wishing you many, many panels. I think you never forget to count your first 10, but then beyond a certain number, you forget to count. So all of us in that. All right. And then we can hear from our student representative.
Okay. So all protocols observed. Good morning.
Morning.
So my name is Mike Simiyu, the chairperson of Zetech University Students Association Council. I'm also the spokesman of Kenya Private University Student Association and also the acting chairperson of Kenya University's Chairpersons Association. So something maybe funny to my students is that most students, they used to know that I'm pursuing my degree in law, but today I want to tell you that I'm not doing law, I'm doing my vast degree in hospitality and tourism management.
And there I was thinking I was going to get another learned friend. Wow, Mike. All right. Interesting to hear that you hold many chairpersonship in so many universities. Zetech, amkuniambia mnakimbizanga comrades hivyo. All right, sawa sawa. And finally, on extreme right.
Yeah, my name is Henry Yatich. I'm not a visitor in Zetech. I'm also a staff in Zetech. You know, the DVC knows I'm a staff in some other quarters in Zetech, and I know Moindi knows, he's smiling. And I'm a management scientist. Let me say what needs to be said today. I work with Zetech and a project called Access Project. And we've supported one of your staff for a PhD scholarship. And we are supporting students up until 2029. And we were just discussing with Catherine earlier on, and we said we also need to join hands and look for more money to support our students. I'm happy to be here.
Asante sana Daktari. I would also want to say that I work for Zetech. It's just that the DVC doesn't know. Maybe she'll pay me because, interestingly enough, whenever Zetech calls me, I'm always running. Good. Okay, so we can get started. We will try as much as possible to take the shortest time so that we can allow the rest of the day's session continue. And I want to start with the first question, and I would like us to see if we can all answer, and I'm going to change the order and start with the right. So we've been having quite a couple of youths leaving the education ecosystem and joining the workforce or struggling. I think majority, we find that in the recent past, majority of the youths are actually unemployed, even having graduated. So what barriers are preventing the youths from fully participating within the innovation ecosystem despite the struggles we're seeing with employment? Dr. Henry, maybe we can start with you.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. I think from my experience at MKU, and I think also working with the Zetech in some programs, one of the challenges that personally I've noted that is hindering the students from really developing their innovations and moving forward is we do not have the support infrastructure at our universities. I'm not sure how many universities have like a seed fund that can support these students to do their prototype, because they have great ideas. And once they come to the lab, then you realize that you have to go a long process trying to get money and support for them. I think that's one element that is missing. The other one is the support from the mentors. I think even in our university, we still lack mentors that can mentor these people. You'll have someone from ICT, you have students from business, you have students from social science, and then they have different types of innovations. So do we have this capacity? And I think in the next questions, definitely we'll be discussing how do we now even work with other people and stakeholders so that we are not just saying we do not have the capacity and we sit down, but we say we don't have the capacity, but we go out there and look for partners. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. What about you, Mike? I mean, you represent students across all universities in Kenya, not just Zetech. So why is it becoming so difficult for them to join the innovation ecosystem?
Okay, so first I appreciate for such a question. So I think at this perspective, I want to address the same question mainly regarding to our Zetech university students. So we find that maybe the main barrier limiting our young students from pursuing entrepreneurship and innovation, especially while in university, is a lack of limited, let's say it is the limited access to mentorship, network and practical exposure. You find that most of our students, they have ideas that they can incorporate into innovation and entrepreneurship, but now there is a limited access to mentorship and practical exposure. Also, another issue I've realized is financial constraints in most of our comrades. Find that most of our comrades, like this, they cannot get the startup capital, maybe to using these innovational entrepreneurship programs. Or also you may find that some, they have a little money, but they fear to spend the little they have because sometimes they say that they may invest and it come not bringing a benefit maybe. Then there is also limited time. Most of our students, I find that that they lack to get enough time to do maybe academic workload, and finally we also have fear of failure and lack of confidence. For that, most of our students, they have a different project they can start, but they lack that confidence, which may be sometimes caused whereby the administration of the institution is not rewarding those who succeed, or maybe just trying to talk about the success stories about our comrade innovators or entrepreneurships.
All right. So that's very good insight. And I'm curious, from Carson, having left the university and now championing for youth, what is your experience, both during your time at the university and also where you are right now, in terms of why youth not joining the innovation ecosystem or struggling to participate?
Thank you so much for that particular question. The experience is a bit different, but relatable based on the different contexts. The first thing, it's because the experience that we've been given in the institution, it's what is supposed to drive us, to drive the innovations outside within the industry. And now you find once the students leave the premise, or maybe they're done with their studies, they're venturing into the industry to start probably developing initiatives of their own. And at the initial phase, not all students will be open to collaboration. And that's one of the challenges that we are currently having with, you find we have a lot of startups coming up. People are starting their startups because someone else also has a startup, but it doesn't always work that way in the innovation space. You must be open to learning, you must be open to collaborate, you must be open to thinking beyond the idea that you have. And that means collaboration also comes in, of which that is an issue that we are facing with a lot of the youths. Most of them, yes, we all want to drive something of our own. You'll definitely interact with a lot of students, and they'll always tell you, most of them, they don't really want to get into the employment space. They don't want to be employed. Of course, that is the dream a lot of students have. They want something they can drive, something of their own. But we also need to realize that sometimes we need the ground that we need. You need the support, you need the mentorship, that just the way the previous speaker stated, because that can give you the grounding that you need to go the way forward. So collaboration is a key aspect that is missing in this current space.
All right. So I do have a very specific question for you. Now that you're working, you are an alumni, but I'm looking at the bridge between you as a student who have just graduated or about to graduate. You have an innovative idea, but you're stepping out of the university. How then do you foster that continuous collaboration within the university so that you're not necessarily being dropped along the way, but making sure that the university is still supporting you despite being an alumni? I don't know whether you get my question. Carson, that's for you.
Oh.
All right.
Well, kindly repeat the question.
Yeah, so I'm asking because you're an alumni.
Uh-huh.
Having been an alumni with a good idea, or you, most of the time, maybe you can correct me, but I find innovations is very high with the idea for the years. But then you're exiting. How do you make sure as a student, you're still within the academic cycle, or you're still within the university environment, such that even as an alumni, you can still go back to university and get that support? Does that exist? Are you able to foster it? And how can we better foster it if it doesn't exist?
Thank you so much. That definitely relates to whenever you have something that you're working on while you're still a student, definitely people are going to note what you are doing. I started advocating for mental health while in first year. And by the time I was in my fourth year, anyone who could come across my name, they just knew Carson is known for mental health. And whenever the organization or maybe the institution had talks on mental health, organizing spaces where people talk about mental health, I will always be invited to give a presentation or maybe just to guide the discussions around that. And through that continued support, you can actually tell that you are giving back to the school, and the school will always look out for you whenever they have such opportunities. So you really don't have to have to be established for the school to recognize you, as long as you are still giving back to the community and you're always ready to show up whenever you're called upon.
All right, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I think also for the students, you can here continue building your brand that the university, even after you graduate, will still want to work with you. Now, to Professor Owen Gume, the same question will still fall on you. What is, and especially since you're a dean and you've maybe come across this, what is preventing the youths and the students within your environment from fully participating in the innovation ecosystem?
Thank you very much. The problem is embedded in our education system. Many of us can trace our journey back to when we started school. Our education system has focused on knowledge, gaining knowledge, not utilizing it, not creating it. And so we have had a situation where we go to school, we are told, work hard, and one day you will get a very good job. So you are in school so that one day somebody can instruct you and tell you, do this. That's what a job is all about, do this. So we have come a long way being bombarded with knowledge and with examinations that tell us to reproduce what we learned. So all along, we have not been creative. Society has many problems, but from the time we were in school, we were not trained to solve problems. We were trained to run away from problems. So our society, we are still continuing to be with the same problems and creating more problems, not solving a single one, waiting for other people to solve the problems. So we come to university with that mindset, and all we want to do is to complete university, get a degree or diploma certificate, and go look for the job that was promised many days ago. At the same time, we have not been able to define as a society what success is. If I take randomly any student here and I ask who is a successful person, they will most likely pick the 10 top billionaires in Kenya. Not because they have done anything tangible. The only thing they have is money. Whether they have stolen it, whether they have made it from whatever crooked way, that is the person they will call successful. But if you tell them that Wangari Maathai was successful because she won a Nobel Prize, many of them will say, what is a Nobel Prize? They don't even know. But when so-and-so who splashes money walks around with bodyguards, walks with chase cars, that is what we define as success. But the person who initiates a cleanup in a slum will not be referred to as a successful person. So we need to think around that and bring the context now to the university and say somebody who has come up with this, in this kind of system only wants to finish school and make money. The institution has initiated an Zetech hub, for instance, in Zetech University, where students can incubate business ideas. But how many of these students seated here today have been to the Zetech hub? Even if I ask by a show of hands, any student here who has been into the Zetech hub, you can see that the percentage is actually 0. So what do these students do? What do these students do with their free time when they are not in class, because they are not always in class? Maybe a student would rather be hired as a security guard in a supermarket or an estate than spend that time to go to the Zetech hub to incubate an idea. Because the student is not after solving a problem, it's after money. So the moment we stop thinking about money, stop thinking about job, but look around and look for a problem to solve in the society, that is the only way we can cure that. So probably CBC might give us a different orientation because it is strong on creativity and critical thinking. And therefore, from a young age, the students will be trained on how to solve problems. It is also strong on community service learning, so that the students will focus on the problems that are existing around their community and try to solve them together with the community. That is the only way we will cure this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's such an insight. Now, I have a story to tell, and this story is because some of your students participated in an innovation challenge we held at Riera University a while back. And we did an inter-university, inter-high school innovation challenge or hackathon. I don't know whether there was anyone in this room who participated in it. I don't know where they are. Maybe they are in Zetech, probably, hopefully, fingers crossed. And one thing I must mention, and it's a challenge I'm posing, it's not a question to them, it's a challenge to you, that when we started the 72 hours, and I must refer to a comment that Mike mentioned on confidence. When we started the 72 hours, the goal was simple, that within the 72 hours, you must create a minimum viable product, demonstrate a working prototype, and then be able to pitch within that 72 hours. We had about 7 universities, Zetech being one of them, and we had 5 high schools. Now, what I was amazed is the effort and the confidence that the high schoolers had. And most importantly, wasn't even the high schools. I don't know whether there was CBC. Along the way, when we did our call, I remember 2 kids telling me, you keep referring to high schools and university, and you're not referring to us. And I asked, who are you? Juniors. I asked, how old are you? And we were surprised that these were kids 9 and 10 years old from Roiro. There's a school in Roiro. I need Pioneer. Nova Pioneer. And I was very shocked because categorically we were very clear. It's high school and university. And there we were with Professor Wanja from Riera asking ourselves, what do we do with these kids? And we said, let them continue. And within the first 24 hours, they had created a carbon converter kit. They were asking, can we get 3D printing machines? And we were thinking, no one had thought about this. So now we had to start thinking, okay, so who can help us with 3D printing machine very fast? We have a 9-year-old who's created a 3D model that they need to print it and demonstrate that they can do carbon converter for houses in Kitengela and all that. You know those houses that you feel the air is bad? And I was blown away by the confidence. And I must mention, maybe it is an education mindset that we are having. But one of the things that I must mention is sometimes we need to pull ourselves from being a knowledge mindset to being a creative mindset. That when you sit down to learn, you shouldn't just take it down on notes. You have to think, how can I put something in practice? So when I see we have an education faculty, you're not trained to be teachers only for those in the education faculty. We have MasterCard Foundation that for the last 3 years has been running a fund for innovations in the education space. So people are thinking, okay, now we're getting in the world of AI, where people who are blind, people who have all these kids who learn differently. All these are innovative ideas that you can actually think around. So when you're given some time, what exactly can you do? So I do agree with Prof there that really, sometimes we have to agree on being confident. And I don't know whether somewhere something gets lost when we get into universities. And the second thing is, get out of just being knowledge. Consume knowledge and then test that knowledge. And maybe in one of the questions I'll be talking about the curriculum, we need to see, do we need to change some of the ways in which we are looking at the curriculum, right? So that's just some pointers to note. All right. So I want to now move to Dr. Henry, and you've had experience working with university students, and some of them become job seekers like myself. Others also become job creators like myself. I say that because I've worn both hats. I've been employed, I'm employed. But then, how then do we start creating this mindset for students to not just depend on jobs, but also think how can we actually create innovative environment and create job opportunities?
Okay, I think what I would say is, let me draw from what Professor Owen said in terms of how do we change our mindset from just learning and keeping that knowledge. But before I give my 2 points that I thought maybe I would share with the students today, I just want to say that sometimes I feel a bit disappointed with our students, the current cohort of students we are training. I don't know if this is an experience that you have in Zetech. You'll find that almost every student nowadays has a smartphone, but always attached with some earpods. You'll either find them either watching movies or maybe social media, maybe Facebook, TikTok, and every other social media platform. But you rarely find them using that smartphone to seek or to search for either something that can add value. Like, for example, Prof has just asked a question and nobody answered that question. And there was a question that was asked some times back. You are an innovator, you're a student, and you're aspiring to, maybe you have an innovation and you want to see who is in Kenya is in this space where I can be able to target and share my idea. And the smartphone can give you that information. It can tell you in Kenya we have this venture capitalist, we have these investors who are in this area. Right now, you've said you run an app. So we have incubation apps in Kenya. How many incubation apps do we know that we can even write to them as a student and say, I have this idea. Of course, you can walk through the university, mentor, and so forth and say, I have this idea. How can I go about it? Can I be supported? So that's where my problem is, first of all, for our students. If we can use our smartphone and get information that we need to support us, even in looking for either the support system that we need, if you have an innovation, and even if you are a student, there are so many other jobs that even are available that you can be able to get and start working with those jobs, even as long as you're still a student. I have a student who is a student in our university, but she's working for Woolworths. And there's a time I asked her, how do you manage to work with Woolworths and you are also a student? And she said, I just worked to Woolworths. I just went to their office and I said, I'm looking for a job. And they told me, okay, fine, let's see if an opening comes up, leave your contacts. And finally, they contacted her. They gave her some part-time job to work over the weekend. And now I think she's working almost full-time, earning about 40,000, is still juggling between studies and work. So this somebody was just finished Form 4 and doing a degree. So my point to the student is, and now as I go to answer your question is, let's utilize our gadgets very well. Let's spend more time on our gadgets trying to look for opportunities rather than entertainment, because definitely that is what we are all looking for at the end of your studies. In terms of now the question that you've asked, I think I would speak from an higher education perspective that in pursuit to what Prof has said, we change the way we train our students. I think it's mentioned about the CBC. The TVET is far much ahead now in terms of even how they do their training. I think for the universities, we still have a challenge, and we can start the baby steps. We may not do it wholesomely at a go, but we can start the baby steps of looking at our curriculum. I know the CU is currently working out something on that, but let's say for Zetech, what can we do to do that? And I want to speak from the program we are running with Zetech, where we are working with 10 local universities, and we have actually revised the entrepreneurship unit. We are trying to see if we can run a common entrepreneurship unit for all the 10 universities that we are working in Kenya. And the entrepreneurship unit that we are trying to work out, and we have discussed, we have already have a final draft. We are looking at validation in the course of this year. We are trying to look at how can we embed our students to the industry challenges. So instead of just doing your entrepreneurship unit and then you present a business proposal at the end of the day that doesn't go anywhere, we look at how can we get the industries come to us and then they give us their challenges, and then we allow the students to work in groups. We can work in groups of 5, and then we connect you with the industry liaison person. That is what that entrepreneurship unit is trying to look at. So every university will definitely have their own processes of approving it, but we have that draft. So let the students work, let the students develop some capstone assignments, and then in the process, and the moderator started by saying, is the challenge of employability. In the process of you student working with the industry, you also try to use your knowledge and your creativity to make yourself more presentable, make yourself more competitive to the industry. And maybe at the end of that assignment, out of the 5 students, the industry will say, fine, I think out of these students, there is one good student here who is, can solve our problem further. And they can give you a call a week later and say, can you help us do this, and we can pay you this. So we are looking at some of those avenues as some of the measures that universities can do it in a small way, but gradually we will start impacting the ecosystem. Then, of course, I started by mentioning also that let us as the universities also provide some support for these students, either in terms of even participating in some of these events that can expose them to contacts and networks. Because what can Zetech do? We may not have enough money to support every student here other than training you, but beyond the training, we can provide those opportunities for the students to exploit for themselves. I'm happy that Zetech, you have one of your staff, I think it's called Samuel Kinuthia. And Samuel Kinuthia, we worked with him in another space some times back. And I see him traveling with students and trying to expose students to some of these innovations and incubation apps outside the world. But after you've exposed the student to that training, to that mentorship, do we provide also some home ground support for these students so that they know when I go back to Zetech, I'll go to that lab, and this lab has this equipment and this equipment and this equipment, or the student can come and say, no, actually Zetech is working with Kirdi, and therefore I just need to go and knock to Kirdi and present my student card and say, I have this idea, I want to create my prototype. So those are some of the things that I think we can do practically to support.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I think just to back one of the things that you've mentioned, I think there's an increasing need to foster that level of collaboration between industry and academia, and where you find that that is not done, then you fail. I want to give us more statistics. Then in the year 2024, we had about 300,000 graduates from both TVET and universities, and only 80,000 entered the job market. So then what do you do to the 220,000? And this is now the question of what exactly are we doing here during the time that we still are within the university that will make a difference. Then you start actually creating jobs while you're still in universities. During my days, and I must mention I'm quite older than most of you, we were quite privileged not to have AI. I say that because Kenya was the labor market for cheating exams. We did PhDs for the world. Some of us are very brilliant, quite literally. We would sit down and write papers for somebody in the UK, in the US. Because there was no AI to do it, the people who did it were who? They were Kenyans. Majority of these Kenyans were on Thika Road. So this university, KU and JKUAT, was the notorious ground for doing PhDs while you're still doing your undergrad. I say that because, well, for the rest of the world, we were helping them cheat. But for some of us, we had to learn the hard way to get money while you're still in university, and you learned some dollars. And so suddenly you would get some dollars. Some of them with dollars would have some small money to set up a computer shop somewhere or do so on and so forth. Nowadays, if you try doing that, you can't, because those people seeking PhDs in the US now have AI. So they no longer need Kenyans to help them cheat. They have AI. Sindio? So I say that AI has unfortunately denied us as students one of our most lucrative ways of making money. And I do that with apologies in front of our VC, our DVC, but that is true. VC, we made money quite early, and we didn't want people to know. And BBC even took notice of that and even came and did a study in Kenya. It was so notorious that we even helped the research of OpenAI, that the entire writing was done by Kenyans, the researcher. That is how notorious we are. So what am I trying to say? There's a lot you can do within the universities as early as in your first year, second year, like Carson mentioned, as a mental health champion in first year, that will make a difference between the moment you get in and the moment you get out. Now, heading to Mike, you're a student leader, both at Zetech and outside. But I'm just wondering, from the student leadership organization perspective, how then can you contribute to the culture of innovation, entrepreneurship, and collaboration within the university? A lot has been said by your professors, and they've mentioned that, well, the students, sometimes we're in class, but with our earphones and smartphones. But then from your side, how much do you think you can contribute to creating that culture within our own universities?
Okay, so I appreciate for that question. So I think on my side, the entire SUSA, because I also work with my colleagues from different departments. So I think for us as the Council for Zetech University and Association, our role is mainly to act as a bridge between the students and the university management and also the external partners in terms of fostering these innovation and entrepreneurship activities. Also, our another role is to organize for innovation challenges, hackathons, workshop, and also start up forums for our comrades. Also, another role is collaboration across different courses or disciplines and partnering with different organizations, whereby mainly I want to talk about this fact that maybe, as you see, we have in our institution, we have students from different departments doing different courses. Just as my dean, I talked earlier that most of our students are not visiting our IZ Hub. We find that that maybe it's not that they doesn't want to visit the IZ Hub, but you find that most of them, most of the time visit the IZ Hub, but once they arrive there, they only find the IT experts. So, someone like me, I'm doing hospitality. I even don't know how to operate a laptop. I even don't know how to operate a computer. But when I visit, I'm only finding those IT experts. That's where that lack of confidence I talked about earlier comes in. Therefore, as an institution, you are supposed to come up with the ways on how, on which someone doing hospitality like me can come up with a project. Someone doing education can come up with a project. Someone doing law, someone doing nursing can come up with a project. Then he gets a strong mentorship and guidance.
All right, thank you so much. So I think a huge challenge is also moving towards the IZ, but we had here nobody has visited IZ. So how many of you are willing to visit IZ after this? I have a few hands. I'm hoping that before we finish, the hands will be all. Sindio? Tunaendelea, all right? But yes, I think we, as students, you need to build that culture yourselves. If we wait for the lecturers, some of these things, we catch up with them faster than people who are older. You guys catch up with them faster than even me, who's a millennial. So you can imagine you have a new AI solution app that's coming up. So who is the first person who should know? Sinenyinyi. So using that, of course, you're going to innovate. Now, Carson, now moving to you, you're a young professional who has now been an alumni. So how well did your experience within the university prepare you for the realities of the real workplace or the innovation ecosystem outside? Did you feel prepared, or did you get a rude shock out there?
Not really. I was actually prepared for it because I'll speak for my school, the School of ICT, Media and Engineering. We used to have about six units each semester, but not all 6 units were theoretical. We used to have 3 that were practical. And these 3, we used to do a lot of projects from first year to the 4th year. We used to have a lot of projects being practical from the very start until even the exams are practical in nature. And that prepared us in a specific way in which you have real-world applications to different problems that we're trying to solve. So that was not a shock, and it really helped me navigate the industry because I could recall there is a time the school organized for solutions journalism training. These opportunities do come, but most of the students don't show up. So we had the training, then after the training, they even provided stipends for people to do the stories and such. So such opportunities are still within the ecosystem, but most of the students don't show up when such is called upon. And that helped me because when I started looking for a job in the job market, I love writing about health. I'm a health journalist, and that's what I'm passionate about. But yes, definitely when you're still in school, you'll think you're unique because I love writing about health, and that's what I do, and that's what I'm going to do. But when you get into the industry will also ask you, yes, you do love writing about health, but what else can you do? What else can you provide? And that's where these other training workshops come in. There's a time I was trying to do a research on Willow Health Media. I don't know if anyone here has come across that particular organization. Willow Health Media, it's an organization. They do articles, they do stories on health, and I just try to look about their employees. Are they people who really studied media like we do, or what is their background? Because definitely at one point in my life, I would love to work with such a company. So when I'm doing that background research, I'm coming across there are different writers on the website, and something stood out. It's because those writers didn't actually do media. Most of them are students who did medicine and surgery. So if you can see someone who is into the medical space with the training that they can get, they will still do what media students can do. So it's actually a two-way traffic. What else can you provide beside what you are trained on? And that really stood out.
Thank you so much. I think it's good to hear what the university is doing for you guys. How many opportunities are you taking advantage? Are you taking advantage of those opportunities? I think he's mentioned that the school organized a session and students didn't show up. Very few showed up. And I think these are the opportunities that you're mentioning. You really, really, really need to show up. Because if you don't show up, people won't show up for you. I'll give a short story before I now get into our final panelist. When I was a second-year student, we had a session organized. I was at the University of Nairobi. And we had a session organized by our dean then. And of course, as usual, we have the usual people who always show up. And then there are those that will come and ask you, what muliambiwa nini? And so we had an opportunity. It was a career talk. And we had people from Safaricom that time. And I was lucky in my second year to be given an internship at Safaricom. By the time I was getting into my 4th year, while I was still at Safaricom, of course I was no longer an intern. I was given a graduate trainee job before I was a graduate. But the reason was I showed up. So I didn't wait for later. So when you see some of these opportunities, you never know what is going to get unlocked from there. I'm lucky to be where I am and to be in the world of technology because I woke up into one morning, listened to what the dean asked us to do, got into a room. I could have chosen not to and continued to sleep. It was my day off and I would not be where I am today. So please show up. Now, Prof, you mentioned CBC. And I must mention that it's been one of the changes in curriculum that we're seeing some fruits. Of course, some parents will tell you that they're doing quite some work. But then I want you to maybe paint a picture. How then can we as a university redesign the way we are teaching and also the way we are learning to better accommodate this space of creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship? Do we need to relook at CBC and see how it fits within our context, or do we need to relook at our curriculum, or what exactly how do you see us redesigning our learning and our teaching to accommodate where we are in the present world?
Thank you. Thank you. Before I answer you, I want to say something. Very many of our university students, like you have said, have assisted people to cheat. Very many of our students today, you give them an assignment. I have sent students to the library to research on something. And then after some time, I sneak there. And you find that what they simply did is that they went to ChatGPT, downloaded whatever they got there from the topic you gave them. Now they are just laughing and talking in the library. We have so many cases of cheating by students. So students can be able to go to AI and generate all the answers that they can find there, but they are not thinking. Because downloading something and giving it to me as an assignment, you have not thought. And though you might get your marks, you might get your grade, and you cheat your way up to graduation, you will get a certificate, but it won't help you. And probably that is the reason why we are having so many graduates there with nothing to do, because they have not trained their minds to think. So even when they go out there, they think the certificate will do magic for them. While there are many opportunities of things that they can do, but they can't see because they have not trained themselves to think. There we have failed completely. And I am wondering, why is it that a so-called bright Kenyan can only think about doing something unethical with themselves than something ethical? Why don't we embrace a kind of internalized morality where we don't want to make money the wrong way? We want to make money rightly. We want to do the right thing, even when there is an opportunity to make money from the wrong thing. If we can think around that and solve that moral question, then we would be able to move in a positive way, because all of us have positive energy. Now, to your question, 844 system, when it was put in place, had a lot of practical orientation. In fact, it was designed in such a way that somebody would be able to enter a training after every circle or at any circle of education. That is why those who couldn't make it to pass KCPE, we used to have what used to be called village polytechnics for them, to go and learn artisan courses, craft courses, and they can be able to work as masons, as carpenters, as dressmakers, etc. But gradually what we did away with those practical subjects. We no longer taught music. We no longer taught art and craft. We no longer taught physical education, PE, and so on. So we diluted that and decided that we wanted to increase mathematics lessons, we want to increase physics lessons, chemistry, and so on. And so gradually we have ended up with an 844 where we are only thinking about passing exams. And that is why these sons and daughters of mine that are looking at me here, they want to pass exam by any means necessary. Whether it is by use of ChatGPT, Kenya, or any other, because we are oriented towards exams. If you ask a typical Kenyan who has a child in school, they will tell you, my son is very bright, He has always been number one from I don't know which class. But the issue is your son has always been number one, but what does he know? What can he do with that number one? We are obsessed with what I call senseless competition. We don't take children to school to compete. We take them to gain knowledge and skills, something that can help them. To me, it doesn't matter whether somebody is number one or number whatever. It is what have they gained. Then we have the issue of discipline. We can learn so much, but if our morality is negative, then whatever we have gained will not help us. So we need character. We need character as we move on with knowledge. Today we are having a wave of indiscipline in our secondary schools. Students are banning each other in secondary schools. So the question is, what have we created in these schools that learners do not want to be there? There must be something environmentally wrong with the school. And as a society, we must think about that and see how to solve. Why do children want to come home? What is it that you have at home that is so attractive to the learners? Is it that we have given them so much freedom at home because they can be on TikTok until morning, locked up in their bedrooms? That can't happen in school. In one of the big schools, the Form 4 said that grade 10 are using tablets. And me in Form 4, I can't be allowed to have a gadget. So we are going home. Maybe we are too restrictive in school. Long time ago, there were no calculators for students. Today, they are going in with calculators. We have banned students from having phones. Today, grade 10 are having tablets because the kind of assignments they are getting, they need to go to YouTube. They need to do research on the internet. So we need to take advantage of this transition from 844 to CBC, and even for the current 844 students who are still in the universities, we probably need to borrow a leaf from CBC and change the way we train them. We are insisting on being in class all the time. What can we do out there? Is that probably the spirit of community service learning that has come with CBC? Can we also pick it up and say, even for the current students, can we teach them outside classroom? Can learning only take place in classroom for an hour or 2 or 3? No. There's a lot of learning that can take place out there, latent and vicarious as well as directed and programmed. We can be able to do that.
All right. Thank you so much, Prof. Very good insight. Maybe the next time we also need to look at, even when you're looking at the curriculum, is how then do we start grading some of these activities happening outside the classroom, maybe to give incentives. But just to close on this, since we are now finalizing, I'd like you to give us, each of us, your closing remarks, your thoughts on especially any recommendation you can have for the universities as well as for the industry to try and prioritize accelerating the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem in Kenya. So I'm told we are short of time, so we can have 30 seconds each. You can close with us as well as give us a recommendation.
Okay. Let me speak on behalf of the universities and the industries because we are actively in the UBL space at the moment. And I think what universities, as I said, is you don't need to do magic, but you can start small. And one of the things we are doing in the Access project, because it's a joint program with Zetech, is we are working with the industry at the moment. In January, we had our first meeting with the industries. And the industries were very enthusiastic. They gave us 24 industry challenges. Those challenges is what we are now running a call for the master students who are known to be doing generic and traditional research. So they are now working on real problems with the industries, what you call the living problems. We are now running another call again under the same program, and we are targeting about 60 companies. And we realized when we met in January that actually it requires one of us to go to the other person. The industry may not come to us, but we can go to them. And when we had that meeting and the 10 companies came and they gave us their challenges, and we tried to split the challenges, we ended up with 24 problems. And now we are saying we have so many students, undergraduate and graduate students. We cannot have enough companies to have enough problems to be solved. So what we are doing is to just run a rolling competitive call for these students to submit their concepts and solve these problems with the industries. Maybe along the road, spin-offs may emerge from these joint activities with the industries, or the industries will say, help us now implement the solution you've suggested. So I think let's have these programs, let's have these joint programs. Sometimes we call them the twinning programs, see what the industry problem is. You have a student who wants to solve that challenge as part of the academic process, then we match them. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Heading towards Mike in the shortest time possible.
Okay, so I want to address my first maybe input, being that I'm the chairperson of SUSA and also the spokesman for Kenya Private Student Association. So maybe what I can say is that our institution should move beyond in making sure that when you are dealing with this innovation, we are bringing on board all students from different departments. We should move beyond from focusing on only IT students to students doing other courses. Let our institution try to come up with the project in which someone who's doing different courses, like I mentioned earlier, like hospitality, law, nursing, even someone doing courses like cosmetology can come up with different projects. Also, my conclusion is about involvement of a student in planning for such innovation programs. Let's say, like in case we are planning for this such research and innovation week, it's also good to involve these students so that we may try to fund their inputs. Let's try to talk to these students that we are having for this innovation week. Maybe what do we think we can do, or maybe what inputs you can bring on board. Let's also give these students a chance so that they can also present their papers. Then we present them in such an innovation week. Let's not only focus on stuff, but let's also go beyond in also involving these students in such events.
All right, thank you so much. And on your case, Kasan?
Yeah, I'll break my conclusion into two parts. A message to the school. The school is doing a lot to the students. That's why you'll notice some units will be changed after a particular period of time, and the reason as to why that is being done is to make sure the students meet the changing needs of the market, which is really good for the school. Especially, there is a particular unit towards the end of the 4 years on entrepreneurship and innovation. It has been there for the longest time. Let that not be changed. It's actually a way of making people think beyond what you just studied in your particular course. And my message to the students is just 3 points. If you are looking for something that you want to start something of your own, try to address real-world challenges from where you are within your community, within your space. Just the way the first speaker stated, you don't need to create magic. You can start with solving the problems that exist within your own community. And that makes you unique. The second thing, scalability. That project that you are coming up with, can it be replicated across different contexts? So that currently right now, we don't really have a lot of funding, and rarely will you find someone who is willing to find a replicated program. That's why they are trying to find it unique. So you need to find something that can be scaled across different contexts. Then sustainability. You might get the funding to start whatever you want to start, but if you're not sustainable enough, the funding to get you started might not run the whole program, and that counts. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. And finally, Professor Owen.
Thank you. The two enclaves, academia, industry, none of them is doing the other a favor. They are all operating in their space. But in order to produce a good product, they need to cooperate. So the universities need to come from the ivory towers and come down and design programs together with industry, and also involve industry in assessments and everything else to train a good student. The industry also is not doing the universities a favor. So they need to open up opportunities for attachment and industry visits and everything. Because right now, the universities are struggling a lot to penetrate some of these industries because they are very rigid. I am involved in placing teachers in schools, and you find the principals saying, like now we are having our shadowing program, that they cannot have a teacher who is not teaching. They can't have somebody in school who will not be teaching. Yet, our teaching practice is designed that this one is a school observation program. So we need industry also to embrace the ideas and the output that is coming from the universities. And then finally, students. The students must understand that they have been given an opportunity to learn, not an opportunity to just be within campus. It's an opportunity to learn. If you don't take the advantage of learning, you will go out there as a half-baked student and you will not be able to secure any job. And if you do secure, you will lose it because you have not the necessary discipline that enables you to keep a job. So I'm pulling upon students, please take advantage, read, study, research. Not every time ChatGPT and out of ChatGPT is TikTok. And those are the kind of things that we do. You have an immense opportunity to build yourself. If you don't take advantage of it, you will only have yourself to blame in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I must say that all the advice that you've been given is sound advice. You remember when I said that it's very unfortunate we have AI? It is unfortunate only in the education system. The rest of it, of course, AI is helping. But I say that because I can even see, personally, I'm an employer, and you've given someone a task, send an email, and it's copy-paste, including that words. You'll even find the word ChatGPT there, right? And it's quite unfortunate. And what do you do when you brought somebody to come and work for you, and 2-3 weeks later, every information you're getting is a copy-paste? You've not even taken time to review and correct it. So I think we're not saying, personally, I tell you, AI is not the problem. It is how you use it that is the problem. It's your guide, not everything. Sindo? All right. So you've been told, take advantage of the opportunities you have. So again, back to the question I asked, how many of us are now willing to go test the IZET facilities? How many of us want to go and check the innovation hub that Zetech has set up? The hands are going up, huh? Good. I'm happy. Please try. There's no harm in innovating. You never know what the future holds. If you don't try, nobody will give you that opportunity. I'd like to appreciate all the panelists we've had for the insights that we've had. We have two amazing doctors and professors from your own space who've worked with you, who are very passionate to see you succeed. We also have one of your student leaders, your chair, who is very keen on helping create the culture for innovation and entrepreneurship in this space. And I must say, entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship. Hata kama ni socks unauza, try something, right? And then innovation is a little different. You now need to start thinking outside the box, put in the world of technology in it. But entrepreneurship doesn't buy you. And finally, we have one of your alumni who's given you insights into life, both during and outside. And I don't think we have a better panel to tell you what the world out there looks like and the opportunities you have and how to take advantage of them. I am always a walking testament. Most cases, you'll find me as a panelist, not as a moderator. because I like to give people the real truth. Out here, it's rough. I've given you statistics. 80% of you will not get employed. Let no one lie to you. Fact. The only way you get employed is if you become the employer and you employ other people, which is with the skills that you're learning when you're within the universities. Right, so it's me, your moderator, Wangeshu Wahome. Glad to have been part of this session, and I'm wishing you the very best. I would like us to give a heartfelt clap to our panelists. So I don't know whether we do the factorials. Can we do 5 factorials? Have they done justice? Si wameongea vizuri? So we can do 5 factorials for them. So we can start. Is it going up or down? Going up, eh? Nimeambiwa tuanze na moja tukiwa tumeenda juu. So let's prepare our hands and give them our flowers. Okay, let's go with 1. Thank you so much, our panelists, and karibu sana. I know the VC we started and you joined us, but I hope it's been an insightful one. And have a blessed day and a blessed week, and all the best in the rest of the innovation program for the rest of the week. Thank you. I think we can stand for a group photo.
Thank you so much, my able moderator, Madam Wangeshi. I did promise you that the session was going to be lit, and you can confess that indeed it was. The takeaway to our students comes from Mr. Carson, who tells our students that ideally Zetech University is equipped with the best opportunities that you can want to explore. It is time for you to get up from your comfortable zone and come and be empowered. So in the interest of making this event even more successful, allow me to give this opportunity to our DVC to crown this session with words of wisdom. Please clap for my boss as she comes. Until she arrives, keep clapping. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wycliffe. Actually, these guys have done justice, isn't it? Whenever I meet Wangeshi, I'm inspired. Farmer, lawyer, entrepreneur, employer, all in one. Isn't that great? And then she says she's old and she looks just like just the other day. And the panel has done a lot of work. I am actually just going to tell the members seated here that Zetech University is proud to announce that we are launching our futuristic lab in our TRC campus. A futuristic, can you at least clap for us? This futuristic lab, based on 3rd floor of our tuition complex, will allow you to test all your ideas. You'll have access to 3D printers, you'll have access to IoT kits, you'll have access to GPU, and you'll have access to mentors. If you want to build a model, if you're in the area of business, Professor Mwalili and team will be on hand to help you do that. If you want to start to test your new pedagogy, that particular lab will allow you to do that. So as you visit the IZ lab, also visit our futuristic lab, and you will be able to test all the ideas that are in your head. If an idea is in your head and it is not coming out, then your head is a grave, which is not a good thing, isn't it? So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof, for the wonderful information. At this juncture, team, I'm going to request our panelists, and I'm going to invite our Chancellor together with our VC and the DVC for a photo session, and then we'll award them gifts. Then we shall give directions on the way forward. Thank you. Karibuni sana, Prof. Yes, I'm requesting the rapporteur, Mr. Solomon, and the MC to join us for the photo session.
stars. I wanna die in your arms. Oh, oh. 'Cause you get lighter the more it gets dark. I'm gonna give you my heart. Oh, I don't care, go on and tear me apart. I don't care if you do. 'Cause in a sky full of stars, I think I see you. I think I see you. 'Cause you're a sky full of stars, such a heavenly view. You're such a heavenly Cause you're a sky full of stars. I'm gonna give you my heart. 'Cause you're a sky full of stars. 'Cause you light up the path. I don't care, go on and tear me apart. I don't care if you do. 'Cause in a sky full of stars, I think I saw you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, team. Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, VC, DVC, for the photo session. At this point, allow me to invite back our MC to give us the way forward from this point. Thank you very much.
All right. For the interest of time, I'm being informed that the presenters who are going to do their presentations here, you remain here. We are now heading for the breakout rooms. So we have breakout room B in LH005, breakout room C in LH006. So if you are supposed to be presenting here, you are requested to remain here, while the rest are requested to move into their breakout rooms. So kindly do that for the interest of time. Thank you. I'll wish to call upon the session chair for breakout room A, that is Dr. Eric Irungu, to take it up from here. Let's appreciate him as he comes. We can do better. We can do better than that. Let's appreciate him as he comes. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Good morning. It is still morning, so we are going to get straight to the presentations. And we are going to have a total of 8 or 9 presentations lined up to be presented in the auditorium. And the direction that I'm going to give is that the presenters are going to come forward in the order that I will call them, so that we have a series of presentations that are aligned, so that we have 4 presentations, and then we will have a round of questions, and then we will move to the next set so that we manage the time. Just to remind us that the thematic area that we are going to handle in this breakout room is applied research and scientific discovery. And at this juncture, I also want to observe that the rapporteur for this session is Mr. Paul Kibet. And Mr. Paul Kibet, if you can just rise up and just wave to the audience so that they know who the rapporteur is. So thank you so much. So as I was said, my name is Dr. Eric Irongo, session chair. Each presentation is going to take 10 minutes. And so we're going to strictly limit ourselves to the 10 minutes. And my general direction to the presenters is stick to the flow so that we have everything presented within the time that is slotted. Do not overemphasize on one area and you leave out critical segments, particularly the findings. So I would basically say that let that be the order that we follow. And the first presenter is going to be Mr. Kimaita Solomon. I want to request Mr. Kimaita if you can come forward, followed by Dr. Masharia. Dr. I also request that you come forward. Just come and occupy the front seats so that we will have the presentations flowing in that order. Next, I want to request Dr. Kibet, who is also presenting here. And next, I also want to request that Dr. Gedaiga, if you can also come forward, so that we can have that order. Dr. Gedaiga seems not to be in the room. Then maybe I can request the other presenter, Njore. Mr. Njore, if you're also in the room, you can also come forward. All right, thank you so much. So I'm going to request that we be assisted from the technical desk so that we can get the presentations rolling. And the first presentation is by Mr. Kimaita, followed by Dr. Masharia, as I said, and then Dr. Kibet, if he steps into the room. So I request that we have the presentations up so that I may usher the first presenter. Otherwise, welcome to this breakout room, and I want to request that we pay close attention, we listen in, take note of the questions that are going to guide the next session. So take note of them so that we can ask all of them collectively. Thank you. I want to request Mr. Solomon, you can come and take the podium.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Good morning, I can't hear you. So my presentation is on from early warning to early action. And I'm looking at conflict prevention, especially in the Horn of Africa, and why it fails. So what informs this study? On one hand, we have conflict prevalence in the Horn of Africa. For instance, if you look at the year between 2020 and 2024, the region witnessed quite a number of conflicts. We have the Tigray conflict in Ethiopia. We had the resurgence of conflicts in Sudan. We have a continuing insurgency in Somali, and we have a common a number of recurring conflicts in the Horn of Africa. Now, one thing cuts across these conflicts, that they were not surprises. They had a very clear indicators that could have been used to prevent conflict. Now, on the other hand, we have well-established preventive mechanisms within the Horn of Africa. For instance, we have the conflict early warning system under the African Union. We have the conflict early warning and response network under IGAD. But despite these investments, we still have conflict persisting within the Horn of Africa. Now, it is the argument of this study that the main problem is not the lack of warning information, but the inability or the unwillingness to convert those warnings into action. Now, the central question for this study is why do we have well-developed preventive mechanisms, but we are not able to convert the warnings into action? So the study was guided by 3 objectives. The first one is to look at the structural and institutional gaps, especially in terms of early warning systems within the Horn of Africa. The second one was to look at the bottlenecks from warning to action. Why don't we translate warnings into action? And lastly, to look into the role of the regional organizations as well as the limitations in conflict early warning systems. Because the study is basically answering the question why, the explanatory research design was quite convenient. For the theory I used conflict theory by Kosa and Danilov. And this is mostly because the conflicts that we are looking at based on contested political authority, we are looking at identity differences within the region as well as competition of economic resources. The study relied heavily on data analysis for data collection from a relevant literature. The study area concentrated on Somali, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Because these 3 countries have identifiable conflict indicators that can be known well in advance. And of course, they have clear patterns in terms of how to identify those conflicts. The study relied on a thematic analysis, of course, from the 3 themes, just to identify the outstanding themes in each of those issues. Now, quickly to the findings. From the first objective, structural and institutional gaps. Now, the key finding here is that the challenge is not the absence of warnings. It is very clear that every conflict has had clear warnings in advance. But the main challenge is the way the information is treated. How is it analyzed? How is it verified? And how do we generate action from those particular warnings? So we have a series of institutional gaps there. There's a fragmented coordination between the institutions. Each of them is running an independent conflict prevention mechanism. For instance, African Union, IGAD, and other organizations. We have a very weak intelligence sharing mechanisms within these institutions. We have inconsistent data collection methods because every institution is verifying or collecting its own data and verifying it. So there is the risk of inconsistency as well as incorrect, inaccurate data. We have limited integration of our technology in conflict prevention mechanisms. We have not actually taken advantage of AI, and of course that means that we do not have real-time monitoring of conflicts. Then of course there is the concentration of urban-related conflicts as opposed to the rural areas where there is actual conflict taking place. Then of course there is no institutional learning because most of these conflicts are repeated time and again. On the second objective, warning to action pipeline bottlenecks, when you look at the case study of Ethiopia, the Tigray conflict, there were clear indicators. For instance, there was the postponement of elections in 2020. There were clear ethnic tensions between the different communities. And of course, there was a mobilization of a military around the Tigray region. But despite all these clear warnings, there was no preventive or actionable initiative taken to prevent the conflict. So the key thing is not identifying the conflict causes or indicators. The key challenge is converting that information into timely action. So, and that is compounded by a number of challenges. We have a lack of political will, where most probably there are clear warnings, but there is no initiative to take action. We have sovereignty sensitivities where countries feel intervention is basically interfering or infringing on their sovereignty. Most of these institutions have challenges in terms of mobilizing finances. We have a lot of bureaucratic delays where decisions take long to be implemented. We have weak rapid deployment systems between the time the information is gotten and the time action is taken. And of course, most of these states are fragile states, which creates a conducive environment for the conflict to take place. Now, on that objective, the role and limitations of regional institutions. If we look at IGAD, we have IGAD taking a role in mediation, in negotiations, as well as drought matters, which is a key conflict driver within the continent. But again, in terms of limitations, there are serious political divisions within the members of IGAD. And of course, issues with financing, which limits its capacity to respond. African Union is also another organization that is a key in conflict prevention. They have a very clear mechanisms, the African Peace and Security Architecture, which houses the Peace and Security Council, the Continental Early Warning System. But again, there is a serious challenge in terms of raising finances, deployment mechanisms, as well as political constraints within the organization. Then we have standalone organizations within the African Union, the African Standby Force. Again, it was meant to enhance rapid deployment. Unfortunately, it has not been functional to date. We have the Continental Early Warning System, again, under African Union, again, compounded with the challenges of intelligence sharing and political reluctance among the members. So the key finding here is that political will is the key solution to conflict prevention. If that is lacking, then it is not possible to convert the early warnings into actions. Now, to the conclusion, it is my conclusion that warning to action gap is political, not technological. We have invested quite a lot in preventive mechanisms. We have information that would lead to conflict, but we have not been able to convert that information into action. Then the other issue is that preventive action is cheaper than post-conflict reconstruction. As they always say, prevention is better than cure. If we can be able to arrest these conflicts before they escalate, then we can minimize the cost of dealing with the conflicts. Now, the issues that we are dealing with are transnational in nature, and so they require a coordinated approach or an integrated approach among the affected stakeholders. Then, of course, the last thing is state fragility is both a cause and a consequence of prevention failure, and that needs to be fixed. Recommendations. Now, because this is a transnational problem that you are dealing with, the conflicts and the insecurity, it is necessary for an integrated coordination among the participating stakeholders. There must be a link between the African Union, IGAD, the respective governments, as well as the community-based organizations that are involved in this. There is need to have pre-authorized responses that do not require the organizations to go through the bureaucratic process of making decisions. Because there are clear patterns on how these conflicts happen, there should also be pre-authorized responses that would enhance rapid deployment. There is need to take advantage of technology, especially artificial intelligence, in not just monitoring, but also real-time analysis. And of course, that can improve preventive mechanisms. Then the key issue again is financing. Is it possible that the regional organizations and other stakeholders can be able to get sustainable financing so that they are not interrupted in as far as prevention is concerned? So that would bring me to the end of my presentation. The references are there. More are available in the main document. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kimaita. We can appreciate him better. Thank you so much. Also, I commend you for the prudent utilization of the time, 10 minutes precisely. Dr. Masharia. Please, you can take the floor.
Yes, good morning. So my name is Samuel. I'm presenting a paper more on mathematical modeling. My specialization is applied mathematics, and I thought at least you will be able to see what mathematicians normally do in that area that can easily be able, at least how we come up with our research. So as my paper is coming up, if I wanted to go to Nairobi right now, I will just go to the Google map, and the Google map will be able to give me directions. Either I'm going through, I'm using my own means, I'm using a motorbike, even walking, and I can easily be able to estimate the time that it will be able to take me to Nairobi. And if I know my car consumption, I can easily be able even to know how much fuel I need to be able to go to Nairobi. So if you think about it, that is what we are doing. We are just simulating so that so at least we can be able to get an idea of how a particular thing will be able to operate given some parameters. So my topic is modeling open channel flows past a rectangular channel with lateral inflow channel. So think about it that there's a channel and there's water that is flowing. But again, we're introducing basically another channel that we are calling a lateral channel that will be able to come into the main channel. So the research context, and I believe because of issues of floods, because of issues of drainage, basically this is an area that is of great interest even unto us. So now most of the research that that has been conducted before, we can easily be able to see that they are only focused on the channel flow. And my idea was to be able to come and see now, how can I be able to simulate if water is coming now from another flow, another channel that we are calling the lateral inflow channel into the main channel. And how can we be able to model so that we have efficiency, basically in the what? In the main channel. So the background I've been able to say there. So the problem statements, we have the traditional designs that again have been done long past. But again, the issues of still floods still come across as matters of concern. Even in buildings, when you're constructing even your home, you want to be able to see how that storm water, how you'll be able to come and discharge it. So the issues of water during a rainy season, during any particular time, are of great concern even at this particular time. Even when you come to hydroelectric systems, they depend basically on the flow of water so that we can still be able to generate energy. So how can we be able to model a channel that will be more efficient? So that is basically the problem. And my objectives basically were that. First of all, is to just develop a mathematical model. And then from there, we can easily be able to examine some parameters. The first one was basically this channel that is coming to the main channel, what angle can it be able to come into the main channel and still have what? More efficiency. And again, to investigate the effect of the side area. When I'm constructing this side channel, how thin or wide, using layman terms, can it be? So that again, I can still be able to have efficiency. Again, this side channel, how long should it be? So that again, we can be able to have that efficiency. And again, how will all this be able to come and affect now the velocity in the main channel? So basically the literature review, there are some equations that in mathematics we normally use to be able to model that govern basically the flow of fluid in a channel. So the most interesting one I can easily be able to say is the continuity equation that says that whatever comes in must be able to come out. If 100 people came into this building, again 100 people must be able to come out. That is the continuity equation. Very simple. Now we have another equation which we call the momentum equation, which states, which governs the forces that govern the flow of water. So water can easily be able to flow by gravity, by viscous forces. So now this momentum equation will now be able to govern the forces that will be attributed basically with the flow of water. I'm using simple terms so that you can be engaged. So this is the evolution of open channels from long ago. You can easily be able to see that channels are coming up. We are coming with more sophisticated channels even as we move on. And you can easily be able to see, I think you have been able to see even as you move around, we have some that are rectangular in nature, some that are circular, some that are triangular, trapezoidal. All these basically are the designs of channel. And each channel will be able to give you an efficiency depending basically on the shape that you have. But my main concern was basically on the what? Rectangular channel. More research now can be done in other types of channels to be able to see if there's any difference. Now the methodology now here. The methodology is to be able to come up with a mathematical model that will be able to give you basically a better glimpse. Why? That is the biggest question for mathematicians. Why are you doing a model? Because it is so much expensive to be able to design rather than to what? Simulate. So simulation basically reduces the expenses that are required basically before you do what? You do an actual replica of the problem. Let me just ask a question, which is easy. If someone told you, you can easily enter into this aeroplane, we have never done any simulations, but I'm 100% sure that you can still be able to move from here to Mombasa. Or another person who comes and tells you that we can still be able to, we have done simulations on this aeroplane, we have seen it can easily be able to fly, and you can easily be able to move from here to Mombasa. So that is basically the world of mathematics, that simulations are less expensive than modeling the actual problem. So this is basically the visual representation. Basically, you can easily be able to see there's a channel that is coming, and that is basically the things that we want to be able to come and evaluate. And for us to be able to come and simulate, we need some graphs that will be able to give you an idea of what is happening. So these are some basically of what I was able to find out, that if we are constructing the channel, basically, and you want to be able to do what? To increase the velocity, make the channels more wider. So that when now water comes to the main channel, it will be able to have a higher velocity. This higher velocity can again be geared towards what? Hydroelectric what? Basically, you want to be able to produce electricity. So because there will be less resistance. The other one is on the roughness. Now, if you have a lot of borders, and that's why we always advocate that even during storms, during heavy rainfall, it's usually good for you to be able to remove the debris basically on the channels, because there will be a resistance in it. Because this resistance will be able to come and reduce the velocity of water that is coming into the main channel. So that one again is easy, and you can easily be able to see that my research accommodates smooth channels. Now, the larger lateral area length now. So the said channel, increasing the said channel area or the said channel length, this one will now be able to come and reduce. So even as you're constructing the said channel, it should not be as, the longer it is, the more velocity you will be able to come and reduce in the main channel. And finally now, this one is now the most important now. Which angle of the main channel can I be able to construct such that when water is coming to the main channel, I can easily be able to get a higher velocity. And my research, I found the sweet spot is what? Between 30 and 50 degrees. If you do a 90 degrees angle, then you will not be able to get a better optimum velocity. So if you are constructing, your sweet spot will be between 30 and 50 degrees. So the discussion and implications. So when you're constructing now, you can easily now be able to see through the simulations that we have been able to come up with a model we can be able to give to an engineer, that we can easily be able to increase the velocity in the main channel by having an optimum angle. And that one can again be practical when we want to be able to construct basically in roadsides, even in your neighborhood of how you construct, then you can easily be able to get these findings and at least have this work for you. So conclusions, maybe I can be able to say, is to develop robust numerical models. I only did for a rectangular channel. What if I use another model of the channel? How can it be? So again, is to be able to work around now of how we can easily be able to come up with a better way to be able to do now the channels now. And then for future work, again, we can now be able to simulate into 3D models, and then we can now be able to have an experiment. This is basically a simulation. We can now be able to do a real life experiment in the real world to be able to see how we can be able to do this one in a better way. So my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Also, good optimization of the time. We can appreciate him better. Just a point of direction for the sake of those presenters who may have walked in before I give the instructions. We are going to have 10 minutes each for each presenter. And then after we have 4 presentations, we will take the first round of questions so that those presenters can respond to those questions. And then we will now move to the next segment of the presentations in that order. So I now want to request that we will have Dr. Eric Kibet, and immediately after Dr. Kibet, we will have Mr. Njore. So, Dr. Eric, please take the floor. We can have his presentation up from the technical desk. Thank you.
All right. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Yeah, it's a pleasure to see all of you. And I want to thank you for attending this session. My paper, as you may already know, is an assessment of the crisis of decline in democracy, human rights, and rule of law situation in the East Africa community. And it is entitled An Evaluation of Democracy and Rights Situation in the EAC. As a matter of introduction, the East Africa community is a regional integration consisting of a number of countries. First, there was Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania as the original members, later joined by Burundi and Rwanda, and most recently by South Sudan, Somalia, and Democratic Republic of Congo. The regional integration was created in 1999 through the treaty establishing the East Africa community with a number of aims, among them to see to it that there is social, economic, and political integration of member states. And what happened then, since then, was to first create a customs union, a preferential trade area, a customs union, then later on a common market, then a monetary union. We are not there yet. And then the vision of the EAC treaty is to finally end up with a political integration of the East Africa community. That is up in front as far as vision is concerned. What is critical to this paper is Article 6 of the EAC treaty, which specifically require member states to uphold good governance, to uphold democracy and the rule of law and human rights. Human rights there as anchored in the African Charter of Human and People's Rights, which is an African Union convention. So the EAC treaty has 2 levels of principles. One is what is called operational principles, and the other one is called foundational principles. In other words, through this treaty, the countries of East Africa who are members of the EAC pledge that in what they do internally and also collectively as an organization will ensure that they uphold good governance, and then the concepts of democracy, rule of law, and respect for human rights. Now, my paper assesses then what the situation is vis-a-vis what is contained on paper, and then what the realities are. And what you can see there is that there are some reality gaps. First, we see that there has been a democratic decline over the last 20 years or so, representing a steady regional regression as far as democracy, human rights, and respect for the rule of law is concerned. Then we've also seen trends of power consolidation, particularly around the presidency, and therefore leaving us with a paradox of where we have instruments that are very strong as far as protecting these values is concerned, but on the other hand, the practice appears to be weak. So the core argument of my paper is that the EAC's broader development and economic objectives will remain elusive for as long as democratic principles continue to erode. Remember, the EAC is about so many things. It's about economic prosperity, it's about liberalization of trade and enhancement of integration. And so the argument I make is that for as long as we ignore matters of democracy, human rights, and rule of law, then these economic objectives and ambitions will remain elusive. Speaking about the research objectives in my paper, the core objective is to critically assess the EAC's legal and institutional framework in promoting and safeguarding democracy, the rule of law, and human rights. In other words, to assess it from a critical perspective and see what is working and what is not. And the key research actions then, as far as my paper is concerned, is to evaluate assumptions in the treaty, constitutional commitments that member states make, and to also deconstruct the gap between formal normative obligations as contained in domestic instruments such as constitutions of these member states, and also the EAC treaty vis-a-vis the practical state conduct on the ground. So that chart there then represent my research action and some of the components or elements that I engage with as far as this research is concerned. What are the legal frameworks? What are the institutional mechanisms that exist? And what are the practical realities on the ground? And what conclusions can we draw as far as this matter is concerned? Now, speaking a bit about methodology, you will notice that this is a bit different. It's a paper that belongs to legal research and democracy studies. And therefore, if you do not see mathematics or there is a model, there is regression analysis and validity and what is the other test for social science research, then understand that this is legal research, and what we apply here is doctrinal and comparative legal research approaches. And so it is qualitative analysis, and there is no quantitative element. The research specifically excludes empirical fieldwork or interviews and focuses on doctrinal and comparative legal analysis. And some of the documents then that I look at is the EAC Treaty and regional protocols. Protocols are additional or connected to the main EAC Treaty. And then national constitutions of the partner states, and then the jurisprudence arising from the East Africa Court of Justice, because the EAC has different institutions, and as far as the judicial wing is concerned, the East Africa Court of Justice is the main decision maker, interpreting the EAC treaty and resolving disputes that are connected to the application of the treaty. And then, of course, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which is important to the EAC. And then secondary sources also analyzed, that is academic journals, books, survey reports, current reviews, news, etc. But what is important also for me to mention is that as far as scope is concerned, I have limited myself to the 5 member states that have been members of the EAC for at least 20 years. The others, such as Congo, Somalia, and South Sudan, are recent entrants. So you can see there the situation in Kenya and Uganda. And in short, what you will notice is that for Kenya, there are democratic gains, but these democratic gains are routinely undermined by electoral violence, state excesses, abductions, and abuse of anti-terror laws to restrict political freedoms. Most of you are Kenyans. You need no education on this. And then for Uganda, we see a situation where we have a supreme law that envisions protection of these values that we are speaking about. But on the other hand, we have severe harassment of the opposition, arbitrary detention, internet shutdowns, strict anti-homosexuality laws, but also overwhelming dominance of the incumbent. Tanzania, a similar situation, and there is a recent report detailing the events of the most recent elections in TZ, and you can see that is also the trend there. Rwanda presents an interesting situation of developmental authoritarianism. Many things such as economic growth is working, anti-corruption efforts are bearing fruit, administrative efficiency, but these coexist with highly restricted political pluralism. So it is paradoxical in that sense. Then Burundi, again, grave democratic crisis, including attempts at interfering with presidential limits, and most importantly, serious violation of rights. So the conclusion or the findings of my paper then is that, one, we see hollow constitutionalism, where we have constitutions that are strong, but on the other hand, undermined by strong executive dominance. Then we have electoral authoritarianism on the other, and there you can put Rwanda and Uganda for an example, and weaponized security. And you can see that across the 5 countries that are the subject of this. So the discussion then that emerges is that the EAC is severely faced with challenges. And given these deep political divergences and failure of peer accountability, the question then is, how feasible is the EAC's ultimate goal of a political federation if basic aspects such as democracy, rule of law, and just respect for human rights is concerned? So we conclude then by saying that, in summary, there is need for urgent reform to develop credible, binding, and supranational enforcement mechanisms for democracy and constitutionalism, not just among states, but at the EAC level, so that then perhaps one of the things could be peer mechanisms, including conditions for continued membership and conditions for admission to membership. So the question I leave you with is this: what do you think, and this is for you, are some of the things that EAC can do at that supranational level that could help EAC to remain together, but at the same time ensure respect for democracy, constitutionalism, and human rights in individual states? I thank you.
Thank you so much. We can appreciate him better. Daktari, as the chair, I have added you 1 extra minute because I know I might find myself in some problem somewhere, and I call you. You're most welcome. The next presenter is going to be Mr. Njore P. I request that you come to the stand. technical team, we can have his presentation up.
So before we begin on the presentation, I want to bring on the importance of this presentation, and I want to make it clear that it's all about what we experience today, because we're looking at the geotargeting aspect of advertising. For example, how do you receive on the advert on TikTok, Facebook? Yes, I'm just saying the topic is about geotargeting, and this is something that everybody experiences day in, day out. As you experience advert on TikTok, once you call your Truecaller, you get an advert. Once you get to Google advert again, you receive them. Again on Facebook, IG. So this is part of everybody here who will receive those promotions online. We want to see how can they be used as a catalyst for entrepreneurship, and then again, how can they be used as a tool for engagement, because you need to engage your target clients to have the clients or the customers. And we have looked at key supermarkets which are listed in the Nairobi Stock Exchange, and there are only 6. But now the key gap that we're filling here is we want to see how can you as an entrepreneur be able to utilize those strategies and make use of your business and engage clients so that now you can make some profit. That is why the topic is about the proximity triggered geofencing strategy as a catalyst for entrepreneurship and through the consumer engagement. So background of these members, we all know that we have begun from a long journey in terms of media. 2022, 2023, after COVID, we all know that's when TikTok became very famous. Of course, courtesy of someone like Aziad, who was able to gather a million of followers at that time. Again, we have been advancing in terms of the digital ecosystem. That's why now geotargeting is the latest advancement of digital ecosystem, and that's why companies are taking advantage of it to be able to engage the clients where they are. The advantage of this strategy is you can easily know who to target because you have their data. Even now, if someone wants to target where you are, I can easily push the advert because they have your data, then you have the phone number. You can use the Wi-Fi, you can use the GPS, you can use the SMS, and even you can use the Bluetooth, as you can see. So we took the 6 retail shops, as you can see. And the reason that's why this area is very important is because, number one, we are saying currently, as we speak, 2025, we have 83.5% penetration of internet and Wi-Fi connection. That is why we are saying we should move away from the generic advert making of TV, radio, and print. And then now we adopt the new geotargeting strategies. Then we are saying that problem. What we're saying is, members, currently, we can easily tell how many people have bought products through online because you click, you buy, then the system is able to record that. But what we are missing now as a gap is we need to understand the lived experiences of how we can use this, how the customers experience this geotargeting, how do managers make use of this geotargeting to put their adverts on board, and what are the contextual elements that affect how we push this geotargeting to the target audiences. That is why we're saying we took the research at Nairobi County because of its high level penetration of the internet, and it has good supermarkets which has many branches all over. For example, Naivas has more than 60 branches in Nairobi County and Kiambu County, where if you get those data, you can get a very good case that can represent and understand how you can make use of those targeting strategies. Objective number one is how the managers and digital marketers understand geofencing and how they use it as a consumer engagement strategies among the Nairobi agents in Nairobi. Secondly, we want to explore how consumers experience and interpret this proximity. For example, when you receive your advert via virtual system, how do you feel? Do you feel it as intrusion? Do you feel it as bothersome? Do you feel it as too much of information overload because maybe there are too many? And that's what we need to understand because we want to implement these strategies and make use of them to work for our companies. Then lastly, as an objective, of course, there are the contextual factors that affect this strategy because we have different catchment areas. People do different things, social, political, and even where we live. We have different influence that will determine on how we engage with this. Number one, for example, if you're in Nairobi, do you know the traffic? Do you know the mobility of the people to be able to push this advert in a way that they can be able to buy the products as they get the adverts. Questions, of course, come from the same objective. So I won't take time on that. So we are seeing this geofencing, of course, happens because of the virtual, boundaries. When I'm here, you can easily target a geotargeting advert. You can see 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers from where you are. Then where you are, you're going to receive that advert as you scroll over your phone. Of course, South Africa is a case. European has been able to get the evidence of how it has been very effective. Then we have the South Africa. Of course, they have used it for marketing and advertising. And in Kenya, we are saying we have shoppers have been able to appreciate that even when we get a promotion of Naivas and they're giving a 30% discount, you can easily click and find how you can go and buy the product. The theory that I've used for these research members, it is what we call TAM. TAM simply means technological acceptance model. It simply has two tenets. Number one, we have the perceived ease of use. Second one is ease of use members. Perceived ease of use simply means if you know an app can help you in terms of getting promotions and then you buy things at a cheaper product, you can easily adopt the app. Like for example, why do you have the app for Uber with you? Is because perceived usefulness of that app. But now the ease of use is, if you have the app, then are you able to maneuver through? Are you able to have the interface and buy the product or buy it? That is the tenant, of that theory. So that's how it will help us to understand and be able to apply it in terms of this entrepreneurship and as a catalyst for consumer engagement. So the method that we use to get the data is the qualitative phenomenological design. Of course, it's where you do the interviews and focus group discussion because you need to get the experiences of the marketers, advertisers, and even the consumers who engage these adverts from their phones and other gadgets. Of course, we used 6 main retail shops: Naivas, Quickmart, Chadarana, and Food Plus. Participants were just 30, of course, 6 senior managers, 12 digital marketers, and then we had 12 consumers each. That's the people that used method of sampling per passive because these are people who have a knowledge on how to make use of this. Then we also used the snowball. Snowball is where you get clients who buy things online, then they can refer you to their friends who also buy products by online. Then, of course, we analyzed through trustworthiness. Findings, members, we had the findings based on those objectives. Number one is a perceived relevance and gateway to engagement. Okay, sorry. So shoppers were able to say this, that if they get promotion where they get the right product that give them what they need or the urgency they can buy. But some were cautious about their data privacy. That was one of the outcomes. Then that's why able to say that they prefer personalized information via digital other than generic information. Another issue that came in is the trust, privacy, and limits. We all know we buy things via Safaricom. We buy things through those card, and people are careful about. If you know about what we buy, then how much do you know about us? Then, lastly, about that, sorry. So, members, conclusions. Of course, geofencing emerged as one of the meaningful engagement with consumers, and many were able to appreciate that as a tool for engagement. Then managers were able to agree that they don't just use it individually, but they use other digital platforms like Facebook, Google, and other TikTok just to ensure that they achieve maximum engagement. So, of course, geofencing was seen as a catalyst for entrepreneurship growth and customer engagement. So, lastly, what we recommend is that customers should be trained on the issue to do the data privacy, so that if we are honest, then customers will engage us. Then, lastly, there is an issue to do with specific branches also should be more investigated because you can get different outcomes when you investigate using what we call longitudinal method, where you can take it for a very long time. So areas of further research members. Lastly, we should also experience on the peri-urban areas members because we only focus in Nairobi, but now the question is, what about the areas between Nairobi and rural areas or in between? So we need to see how this works as part of the further research recommendations. Of course, then I've talked about the other method of tracking to see how it can work better. And then those are the references. Questions are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let us appreciate him better. I now want to move us to the first round of questions, and I want to request if we can be assisted with a microphone to the audience so that we can pick 2 questions. So the direction I give is let us have 2 questions targeted to each presenter so that we can manage the time. So I want to open it up. Once we have exhausted, so you raise a question and you specifically mention the presenter that you want to respond to that, and then we move forward. Thank you so much. Can have the first Mimano.
Thank you.
Sorry. Let me just give some direction. We ask all the questions so that then we will have in sequence the presenters coming. That will help us to move a little bit faster.
Thank you. Very resourceful presentations by all the presenters. I have several questions. One is to Balozi Solomon. I want to, the presentation on early warning systems was very well done. Just a clarification, how to recommend instances when we have interventionist states, whereby you have external actors being involved in a conflict. How can the early warning system be integrated to ensure that, I think in the recommendation, that was a bit not clear. Kindly, if you would be able to comment on that. Of course, Dr. Masharia did the mathematics. And thank you, you made a very big effort of bringing us just mere mortals to understand what you are saying. Thank you so much. I just want you to clarify about the flow. You talked about 30 to 50 degrees and discouraged against 90 degrees flow. Can you clarify really? I thought the steeper the flow, then the higher the potential usefulness of that flow. So you can clarify more about that. Dr. Kibet, thank you on the democracy presentation. I want to refer to Aristotelian proposition that democracy is a bad form of government. And in leadership and governance, we find that then democracy has some basic conditions to make it more effective and efficient as a form of governance. And two of those conditions, one is how to deal with groupthink. Groupthink is where you find that if a bigger population is more convinced about something, then they dominate the divergent opinion. Whether they are right or wrong, it doesn't matter, but because the democratic principle of the majority have their, the minority have their say, and the majority have their way. Maybe we might need to even relook, do we really need to apply democratic systems for our growth? And a classic example is the newly industrialized countries.
I want to request that we get straight to the point of the question so that we salvage on time.
Most obliged, thank you. Do we need to be stuck on democratic values? And if you refer to the newly industrialized countries, and all of us are familiar, we are going to Singapore. We don't have very many examples of democratic states in the East Asian region. And finally, to Philip, has the Data Protection Act been well done to cover the concerns that you have raised about geofencing? Is it able to address all the concerns? and all the issues that surround geofencing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I have seen Dr. had raised a hand there.
Thank you so much for those good presentations. I want to put my question to Mr. Solomon. Thank you for what you brought forth concerning what is happening among our neighbors as far as conflicts are concerned. And I wonder why you
rectangular model as one of the models that can be used to tackle flooding. We have floodings, flash floods, and the ones that even predicted right now, the El Nino stuff. How replicable is the rectangular model to rivers such as Nairobi, Sabaki, Tana River, to address this problem? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to presume that your question then is directed to Mr. Njore. Is your question directed to Mr. Njore, or who are you directing the question to? Please assist him.
Oh, sorry. My question is direct to Mr. Kimaita and Kibet.
All right.
Mr. Kibet.
All right, thank you.
So on early warning to early action, and my question is that are you able to point on a case study in the Horn of Africa where the early action succeeded, and what was different from the many failures that we have had? And then to Mr. Kibet on the decline in democracy in the EAC, what lesson can the EAC learn from the other regional bloc that has enforced or maybe attempted to enforce democratic norms? And where might this model in the context of EACC perhaps fail? And then another question still to
I request we just
Kibet.
have one question because of time.
Okay, thank you.
Then you can always engage after the presentations, maybe to follow up on that.
Okay.
Dr. I want to request I close on that. Let me have this round of questions. And to Mr. Njore, maybe to top up your question, you can address when you come, what is the state of the uptake of geofencing as a strategy by organizations, especially towards entrepreneurial activity? I hope that question is clear. So I want to request, because Dr. Masharia has another engagement, Dr. if you can come and very briefly to all the presenters, brief, succinct, straight to the point so that we save on time. Please, you take that. And then Mr. Kimaita will come after you, then Dr. Kibet, and finally we'll have Mr. Njore.
So briefly, on the sweet spot of the degrees from the lateral inflow channel to the main channel, maybe you should be able to think about resistance. So if you do like a 90-degree angle, there'll be more resistance of the particle as they enter. Think about it like traffic. So vehicles are trying to be able to enter into the main highway, and they're entering at 90 degrees. So before they enter, again, they have to be able to swerve. But at a sweet spot angle, they will easily be able to swerve easily into the main channel. Now, on the rectangular model, it is one of the cheapest models to be able to construct. So even in the construction of channels, you'll be able to see that most of the channels, the ones that have been constructed, are rectangular. But again, more research, I think, can still be done to other types of channel to be able to see which one is more efficient. But again, it can still be tackled on the angle of which one is the cheapest. So I took the rectangular because it was one of the cheapest channels to be able to construct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Now, for the first question by Paul Mimano, the question of external actors. Now, external actors in Africa and conflict is becoming a common trend. And most of them are playing a dual role as both conflict actors and conflict interveners. And this is because of a number of structural and operational challenges that African organizations and countries have. So it is quite difficult to separate the two as actors and intermediaries. So I think to be able to put them off in terms of conflict early warning systems, I would recommend that we strengthen the internal mechanisms within the regional organizations so that at least we are able to take advantage of their assistance in terms of strengthening the preventive mechanisms, but also keep them off from conflicts within the continent. So I think that would come as a way of trying to strengthen our preventive mechanisms. But again, that's something that we can explore further in terms of the dual role that external actors are playing. Now, Dr. thank you for your question. I did not leave out our country. It is true that we are beneficiaries of conflict early warning systems. In 2007, 2008, we actually had warning information. And that to some extent, it contributed to mitigating the conflict. The extent of the conflict could have been worse, but at least some information was taken into account. Now, the main challenge is political will. Most of the leaders in African countries are beneficiaries of conflicts. And at the same time, they're the ones implementing the same systems that you're talking about. So there is some form of conflict of interest there. So unless we push our leaders to agree to play the effective role of leadership, then we might not be able to realize the benefits of conflict early warning systems. In Kenya, we have a system that was put in place after the 2007 elections, the National Steering Committee on Peace Building. It has worked with the NCIC, but again, it is very cyclic. We only get to hear it when we have a conflict. So I think it's a question of a political will. Are we able to enforce that among the leaders within African countries? To my student there, I believe it's Joshua, do we have any cases of successful early warning systems? Now, we have, I could look at it in two ways. We have successes in generating the early warning information. That has been there. At the African Union level, at the IGAD level, and even at the national level. We have been very successful in identifying those conflict indicators. Now, the challenge has always been translating the warnings into action. To some extent, we have implemented that. And as I said, in the case of 2007, 2008 post-election violence, we were able to reduce the intensity of the conflicts because we took advantage of the early warning systems. So again, the question of political will would come in. So there is success in generating the information. The only challenge is in translating the information into action. So that would be it from me. Thank you. I hope I answered your questions.
Thank you, moderator, for this opportunity. And thank you, gentlemen. They're all gentlemen who, and one lady who asked questions. And I'm going to respond to them quickly and as best as I can. The first question is that democracy is a bad form of governance. And how do we deal with group thinking and other weaknesses and challenges that bedevil democracy? It's true, there are many criticisms around democracy. And in fact, there is no consensus that democracy is the best form of governance. The only challenge that we face is that we don't have an alternative that is as appealing as democracy, at least to majority of thinkers, because the essence and what makes democracy particularly appealing is that theoretical recognition of the dignity of the individual and the participation of people. That is not to suggest that it works and works perfectly. So it has its own weaknesses, and you have identified it. So the fact that we don't have another alternative is what the issue is. Then there is a second and related question, and you did speak about examples of how countries in the Far East appear to be doing better than some democratic models in Africa and elsewhere. And so the second gentleman asked a related question and started by saying that there is no such thing as democracy. And then he went on to ask whether developmental authoritarianism is a panacea for Africa. So to address the second limb of that question is, it sounds a bit attractive sometimes to speak about developmental authoritarianism or the concept of benevolent dictators, but it's a deception. You know, when we see the president of Burkina Faso marching and doing things and appearing to be doing great things, we get to begin to think maybe there is a better model of governance than democracy. At least for democracy, we know the content of it. We don't agree completely about the full content of what it should look like, but you can tell me a few things about what democracy should entail. Now, if I asked you, what does developmental authoritarianism entail? And how do you ensure that this benevolent dictator does not go overboard? There are no answers as far as I know is concerned. But for democracy, we know there are concepts such as rule of law and constitutionalism for purposes of ensuring that there are checks and balances. So when we say that there is no concept as democracy, it's a very skeptical view of this idea. But I will respond to it this way. The fact that we have so many shades of gray does not mean that we don't have gray color. And there's a movie called 50 Shades of Grey. So the fact that gray has so many shades cannot lead us to a conclusion that gray does not exist. Democracy does exist, but the reality about it is that its content is also varied, and sometimes we don't have a consensus on what ideals it should contain. Finally, is a question from the gentleman I picked the name as Joshua, and you ask the question of what lesson can EAC learn from other regional integrations? That's a very good question. And of course, there are many lessons that EAC can learn. And the one that comes to my mind, and I think the most powerful, is the European Union, which since after the Second World War has been on a trajectory of growth and stability, rising from just an integration of countries and then moving on to what it is today, getting so close to a real political federation. So the answer then to that question is yes, European Union exists as perhaps the best model that we have to learn from. Thank you.
I'll be very quick to answer your question on whether our government is serious on data protection. Yes, we have the Act 2019 data protection that have those regulations, but the problem is most of the Kenyans are not aware about their data rights. In fact, one of the research says 8% of the Kenyans are not aware about their data rights. Then, for example, all of us here, most of us here, who took time to care about the terms and conditions of having ChatGPT, having IG, having Facebook, having TikTok? Nobody. A few. That's where the challenge is. The last question that I was asked about whether we are ready for geotargeting. Yes, we are ready, because if you go to Mombasa today, a few days once you stay there, you'll get adverts being pushed to your phone that are in Mombasa County or Mombasa Town. Yes, we are ready. That's why the research was about how better can we be able to adopt this for customer engagement and for the growth of entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We can appreciate the presenters. And at this point, I want to request that they can now step from the podium. You can take your seats. I invite the next set of presenters. So the next order is going to be Dr. Githaiga is going to go first. And then we are going to have Mr. Roy Haemba. I request that you come up front. And then we will have the next presentation from Dr. Chege and Dr. Mwindi. Please, the presenter for the two, come up front. And finally, we will have a virtual presentation from Dr. Kiprop that is going to come last. So again, the same order. Instructions are, we have 10 minutes for each presenter. Stick to the crust of the presentation so that you cover that in good time. And I request Dr. Githaiga to take the podium.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Githaiga from the School of ICT, Media and Engineering. I teach mathematics, so my presentation will be on mathematics part. I hope I shall try to make it simpler as possible. Okay. So my paper was an extract from my PhD, which was fully funded by African Union. Still waiting for the slides. Though my topic will be on hydromagnetic nanofluid flow through a stretching, convergent, divergent conduit. Of course, a conduit is what we are just saying is a closed channel. So introduction of in Africa, electricity is a main problem. And despite that, in Africa, we have a large capability of production of geothermal power. But in this case, I'm going to bring in the issue of the nanoparticles so that we can enhance the rate of cooling. So in this case, nanofluids are dilute suspension of nano-sized particles which are suspended in a base fluid with particles which are less than 1 600 nanometer, so that we can be able to do away with the issue of sedimentation and the issue of the scale formation. Nanotechnology is one of the growing areas and active research areas by researchers and scientists recently due to its vast application in solving real-world problems. In Africa, we always over-rely on fossil fuels, which has negative climatic conditions. Despite that, we have large production of geothermal power, which is really untapped. Just to get it into context, approximately 600 million people in Africa do not have access to electricity. Now, my research problem is this. While you are trying to extract energy underground, which is more than 5 to 10 kilometers, there is a lot of friction. At that friction lead to high production of heat, and thus those machines which are working under those environments need to be cooled. Now, so in this case, they always use the water as the base fluid for the cooling, but I was trying to see if we can bring in the issue of the copper nanoparticles. The rate of cooling can be increased, and then we can be able maybe to reduce the rate of the scale formation around those pipes. So this was the geometry of the problem. I know most of you have ever gone to Olkaria, where we have some pipes which are maybe straight, and others are non-parallel. But in this case, we are just simulating, and we are assuming that those non-parallel walls do not intersect at all, so that we have so that the flow may occur. And of course, the fluid which is under the contact with the wall, it has the same rate of velocity. Those are the boundaries. Of course, UR is the velocity, T temperature, C concentration, the others. The objective of this was to model the fluid flow through a convergent, divergent conduit. And then after that, we determine the effects of varying various non-dimensional parameters on the flow variables. And those parameters are quite important to engineering, because they shall assist us to know which type of metal we will use to make those pipes. We have some governing equations. The first one is the mass equation, which must be satisfied for any fluid flow to occur. So the next one is the specific equation, which I derived after, we have a standard momentum, which we always add our contribution. And in this case, I was able to add the body forces and then bring in the issue of the nanoparticles. So that was the specific one. And this is the specific equation for the energy. So now, in order to solve those equations, I used the spectral relaxation method. This method just works. It is just but iterations, just the way AI works, where you have to maybe prompt the AI, and then you keep prompting it until it gives you the correct information which you want. And then another issue here, after modeling, it was able to form partial differential equations. And solving the PDE, it's quite very challenging a bit. So what I did, I was able to transform those PDs to ODEs, because in OD we have the exact method which we are able to solve the ODEs. Then after that, I did simulation in MATLAB. So all those equations, together with the boundaries, were implemented in MATLAB. And these are some of the results which we gain. I know we have the first one is the effects of varying Reynolds number. Reynolds number is just but the ratio of the inertial forces to viscous forces. As you can see from our graph, when you increase the Reynolds number, it leads to an increase in velocity. And this is because when you increase it, viscous forces are reduced, which in real sense, which